Dot, 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 dot. Good morning, everybody. This is Grant from State of the Spark. There is a Caribbean village that sits on a bay of white sandy beaches that's lapped by emerald clear water. And in the morning, the young boys play in the water and eat mangoes and bananas for breakfast, while the parents and abuelitos sit and drink coffee, watching them play and shoo along the very chickens that gave them the eggs they're frying up for breakfast. The sand is between my toes as I think about the massive revelation I had the night before. A secret empanada cart where a local man makes $500 a night in a country where people earn no more than $348.51 a month. We're going to talk about that empanada cart today. But before we actually talk about stress and what is causing your stress, and this wise and rich empanada cart, we're going to talk about morning cup of gratitude. Yes, I'm going to skip other news because I want us to focus in a little bit on what is causing your stress today and how you can deal with it, and some mental tools that we know that work. But I want to get down to the cause. What's causing you to be so darn stressed out? We're going to talk about that. But before anything, you can't help. We cannot skip a morning cup of gratitude. Please, if you're watching somewhere out there, let me know what you're grateful for in the comments. I live off this thing. I live off of your comments and your gratitude and your gratefulness for what you've got. I'll tell you what I got this morning. I'm super grateful that my lovely wife is back. She was able to take a long weekend. She takes long weekends with her friends and they hang out. They hung out on the beach. We were able to share with them one of our investment properties, and that was able to fund their weekend away. I'm super grateful for that. I'm super grateful that I am constantly challenged by awesome people around me, that I'm surrounded by people that have leveled up and that always challenge me to grow. Good conversations yesterday with my good buddy James Joseph. It really made a huge impact in some of the conversations we've had. So that's what I'm grateful for. What are you grateful for this morning? What are you pumped about? So let's talk about the wisest and richest empanada cart in the world. So as I said, this village is on the southern coast, the southern coast of Dominican Republic, and it's in a little bay. And in that little bay, there's all of these boats that bob and float around. There's fishermen bringing in fish early in the morning. There's kids that are jumping off this coquina rocks into the water, while me and Marissa and a few friends sit around eating our desayuno and our local coffee, and we are just enjoying our morning. See, this small town, Marissa and I had funded ourselves to live in the Dominican Republic. And each morning, we lived in three different locations. We lived in an area known as Punta Cana. Then we moved to an area known as Bahia. And all of that was to get Marissa certified as a scuba dive instructor. So she spent a lot of time in the water, and she was living her dream, living in the tropics, getting a tan, but also scuba diving deep underwater and becoming significantly skilled at that. She was surrounded by locals, some Dominicans, some foreign, some Germans, some Swedes, some Finnish people. There's a lot of mix of people in the Dominican Republic becoming scuba dive certified. And whenever we'd walk to the beach and breakfast in this one small town called Bahia, and I recommend you look it up. Every morning we'd get up and we'd walk down our apartment, and there would be salt air kind of coming down on the tiles, cool tile. So you'd have to be careful walking down the tile steps because throughout the night, the ocean breezes would bring in salt air. And we'd walk down, and it would already at 7 in the morning be so humid that you felt like you were walking right through where clouds generate. But it was okay because all the locals themselves were also already hot and sweaty, and it was intermingled with breezes that came in from the beach. And each morning we'd walk down, drink coffee, eat eggs that were just laid, eat bacon and breakfast, just a small desayuno, and Marissa would then go off with her scuba dive team. And I would stay, and I would write, and I would plan, and I launched Rookie Missionary Manifesto, and I launched missionarytips.com, an early venture of mine. But this one particular day, I remember reflecting that the night before in this small beach town in Dominican Republic held one of the most priceless gems. No, it wasn't the beautiful beach. No, it wasn't the beautiful people. No, it wasn't the awesome habit that these people had to actually party into the evening. It was the revelation I got from Blanco, the empanada cart guy. Yes, his name was white, and I thought it was ironic that he was talking to the white people, but I'm going to get into that in a minute. But I want to call out another person. Marissa was learning how to become a scuba dive instructor, and one of the young men that she was next to, a Dominican man, he was a young man. He spoke 4 languages fluently. Spanish, obviously, English. He spoke a very useful amount of German, and he also spoke a bit of Finnish because there was a lot of Northern Europeans that would come into the area. He also happened to know a little bit of Haitian Creole because they were right next to Haiti. A very diverse, well-spoken, well-articulated young man, fit as a fiddle. Basically, every single day he would get up and go out on the boats. He would show people how to scuba dive, show people a good time. In the evenings, he would dance the night away under banana trees and palm trees with beautiful Dominican women. But he was unhappy. He was unhappy. How would you be? What would be your state if you had this awesome experience that this young man, if you grew up like this young man? He was unhappy. He said all he dreamed about, his dream, was to play baseball in America. And he seemed a little stressed. Marissa wanted nothing but the life that this young man lived, at least before she got dengue fever. He wants nothing but to get away. Elon Musk was recently quoted. He's on trial right now. Yes, the great Elon Musk. He's on trial right now, defending his decision to use Tesla to buy Solar City. And a lot of people are accusing him of shenanigans, and he's defending himself. And someone said, you did this because you're just trying to make things better for Tesla. And he basically responded with this. He said, I don't like being CEO of Tesla. I'm the only person who can be. He said this is what he'd rather be doing. I would rather be simply designing and engineering. And this is why Elon Musk loves working in the Gigafactory, not as CEO. This is why Elon Musk loves working with SpaceX, because he can design and engineer. Elon Musk has been one of the richest people in the world several times now and still is. He's had possessions and he's been married and he's had kids. And I was reminded of the quote I said yesterday by Jim Carrey that said, I pray that everyone becomes a millionaire so that they realize it doesn't have the answers. And someone like Elon Musk has learned a secret that this Dominican man next to Marissa, who's a scuba diver, doesn't seem to have learned yet. And I hadn't learned it either. You see, I was living the island dream. Marissa and I had saved up 30 grand so that I had runway for an entire year. And I was going to give myself that entire year to launch my infopreneuring brand, Rookie Missionary. We launched rookiemissionary.com. We launched, and I wrote the Rookie Missionary Manifesto, one of the 7 books I'm very proud to have written. I also wrote a book called Missionary Tips, or we had a website called Missionary Tips. And we still have a lot of these properties, though they're not being invested in and no one visits them. I was living on the Dominican Republic. Marissa would get on her boat and scuba dive all day and learn how to do that. And I would go back to the apartment and I'd try to write. But it's much harder than it looks. And I fell into a depression. One of the worst depressions I had as an adult. And here I was living the dream. And I believe this is kind of the experience that Jim Carrey was hoping people would have. And this is why I often say that when you first accomplish your dreams, there's a momentary high. And then there's the summer camp depression. Have you ever gone to summer camp as a kid? You might have been gone for 2 or 3 weeks from family, and then you come back only to fall into a deeper depression. Most people have grass is always greener on the other side syndrome. But then there's Blanco, the empanada cart guy. You see, in this town in the Dominican Republic, me and Marissa were very enamored with this town, and I'm sure it's changed since, but at the time, it had a bit of mystique and enchantment for us. You see, the first time we showed up, one of our early morning walks from our small apartment that we had rented, down to the bay where we would have breakfast, and then I would see Marissa off. As we would walk, we would pass this small cobblestone square. In the first few mornings, we realized there's a party last night. You see, lining this cobblestone, old Spanish conquistador cobblestone square in this small town, there was a little lip, like a curb, that kind of went all the way around, old marble or granite curb. And around the entire square, there were hundreds of empty empanada bottles. Obviously, the remnants of a party. No, not disheveled. No, not shattered beer bottles spread everywhere, but actually lined up nice and orderly along the curb. And pretty soon, some designated garbage person would come by and pick up all the bottles. You see, Marissa and I realized that there were parties going on here and that people were celebrating. So we committed that in our time in Bayahibe, we would visit one of these parties, and we did. One evening, we made our way down to the square, and we found at first dozens and then hundreds of people packed into the square, and a bunch of Dominicans with their cars, and the backs of their cars opened up so that their subwoofers could play, and people were dancing throughout the night. And there was all sorts of food to pick from, and there was Presidente beer, and the little farmacia opened up and little snacks. But there was lines around the square for the empanada cart. And Marissa and I, of course, couldn't help but get in line for the empanada cart. And once we got up to the front of the empanada cart, we realized empanadas were only $1. So an American dollar. So we pulled out an American dollar and bought a few empanadas. And over time, we built a relationship with Blanco, the empanada cart guy. And he was always a smiling guy. And I was so curious about this empanada cart. There was people lined up, and there were locals and there were foreigners, and the locals loved his empanadas. And it seemed like the line went on. And I started doing some quick math. Empanadas $1. I said, "Hey, Blanco." And we were speaking in Spanish. He said, "Yeah." I said, "How many empanadas do you sell in a day?" And the square was crowded, shoulder to shoulder with people dancing and sweaty. And then they'd come online and get an empanada, and they'd go back dancing. And I said, "Blanco, how many empanadas do you sell in a day?" And he said, "500." And I was like, my Spanish isn't so good. I said, how many in English? He said, 500. I said, 500 empanadas, selling for $1 each. I was like, great, good for you. And I started doing the math in my head. I said, how many days a week? He said, every day of the week. It's like this. It's busy like this. And he goes back to making empanadas and selling empanadas. And I'm standing off to the side. I'm like, if this guy only works 4 days a week, he makes $2,000 American a week. If he only works 50 weeks a year, he's making $100,000 a year in a country where people earn on average $348.51. And I was blown away. And so I started talking to Blanco about his story. His family gets together early in the morning and preps all the pastry dough and preps all the fillings. Some of them are ham, some of them are ham and cheese, some of them are just cheese, some of them have other ingredients, whatever ingredients are on the market. He has hot sauces, but that's really all it is. His empanada pastry, he makes it with his family in the morning. I said, what about going to America with this? He said, oh, I've traveled to America. I'm doing good, was his basic message. In a country that lives on $300 a day, a man selling empanadas in a small town, casual. He wasn't running at this American pace of we got to do business and fighting to pull and bring home $100,000 for his household. He was just calmly, confidently selling the simplest thing in the world, empanadas. And I thought, this guy has got it figured out. He takes his family on vacations to Asia. He takes his family on vacations to America. But he has a small beach village life. He swims in the ocean during the day. He while his family is prepping the food. He goes out, builds relationships in the square, and so long as there's tourists, so long as people want to dance. You see, why people get together is this. The people in the square, why are they so happy? Because they've also figured something out, just like Blanco. You see, tourists come to a neighboring town called La Romana, and no one really knows about Bayahibe. In fact, they think Bayahibe is just a general area called La Romana, but it's a small town of just a couple hundred residents. Me and Marissa lived there. We met some of the residents. There were many Italians there. We actually found a gal who turned her little tiny fenced-in garage into a Italian cafe, and Marissa and I would drink espresso there and hear about her time in Italy and eat her Nutella crepes. Small town. But Marissa and her crew would go scuba diving and learn how to scuba dive and learn how to be scuba dive instructors. And then the town went quiet. And so I would sit there and eat breakfast, and suddenly the buses would come in. Bus after bus after bus. And hundreds and thousands of tourists every single day would get into this long row of boats. Thousands of tourists every day. And they would take them off to an island called La Samana, or Catalina, I'm sorry, La Catalina. And the tourists would spend the day there and come back and have tourist lobster tans and be exhausted from their day, get back in the buses, and the buses would then take them out of the town, back to their resorts up the coast in the actual town of La Romana. In fact, most of the tourists would never left the resorts. They just thought that this was the harbor of La Romana, but it was another town. And the locals would make money as boat guides, as adventure tourists. But the town itself, people would pull in, park their buses, get on boats, and leave, and the town was quiet the rest of the day. In the evening, nearly everyone in the square was serving this tourist industry, and they had made American money living on local dollars. They had figured something out like Blanco had figured something out. Now, some, like the Dominican scuba dive instructor that Marissa was with, dreamed of other things. And I often wonder why people dream of other things. I recently found out that the founder of modern economics, John Maynard Keynes, once wrote an essay titled Economic Possibilities for Our Grandchildren. He wrote it in 1930 as he was ideating and coming up with what we know as modern economic theory. And in his essay, he made a profound prediction. He said that if technology, this was in the 30s, continues to advance at this rate, by the time his grandchildren grow up, which is about today, the labor calculation should mean that we only need about 15 hours of labor a week. Only about 2 or 3 hours a day for 5 days, or really just a Monday and a Tuesday, a long Monday and a long Tuesday, and then a 5-day weekend. This was in John Maynard Keynes' essay. I did not make this up. This is not Tim Ferriss talking about the 4-hour work week. This was his abundant-minded, opulent-minded view of a divine future. And this is why he worked at inventing modern economics. Now, we obviously don't work 15 hours a week. We're overworked, overstressed. We're torn between what we want and what we have to do to get by. So why don't we live the John Maynard Keynes dream? And why are we stressed, whether like me on the Dominican Republic, even though I have the dream I thought I wanted, and that Dominican scuba dive instructor who's living the dream Marissa wants, but himself is unhappy? Why are we stressed out like these people? Now, most will simply stop me and say, hey, Grant, have you seen the cost of living? Let's raise our minimum wage. We're overworked because of rising costs, and that's certainly some of it. I present for your consideration, however, that we're actually stressed and overworked because we don't actually know what we want out of life. You don't know what you want out of life. So many people chase the default definitions of success, and they're also growing numb to them. It's a catch-22. We set default goals, we get them, and we wonder why we're not happy. You see, stress, I think, the stress you're experiencing, I think, is a conscious or unconscious A-B analysis. This is what an A-B analysis is. I'm in location A. I consciously or unconsciously want location B, and I don't have it. And the distance between A and B is the degree of stress. What I mean is, if you want to live on truly, consciously or unconsciously in your core, want to live and believe you should live on a beach in Thailand, drinking Mai Tais, surfing your days away, eating one meal a day because you fish and you're not making any money. But instead, you're working in corporate America for Bank of America in the banking and financial institution. Those dreams are very far apart. Taking care of mortgages, taking care of boats, taking care of houses. The distance between A and B is the degree of your stress. Now, if you're working in corporate America and you're a VP for Bank of America and you've got mortgages and you've got cars and boats to take care of, but all you want to do is be in the C-suite, you're probably a little less stressed. Though I do believe we need to be working as hard as we're working, 40, 60 hours a week. I think it's not because necessarily, not only because the cost of living has gotten much higher than John Maynard Keynes proposed. I present for your consideration, it's actually because you have not actually made the difficult decisions to do what you want, to explore what you want, to even know what you want. I present for your consideration actually define what it is you want. So I'm here to share 3 things. And we just had an interruption, so if you missed that, I apologize, but we should be back. I'm here to share 3 things that I think are actually causing more of your stress than the demands of society. Number 1, distractions. And I mean straight up traditional distractions. I'm not a hater on social media, but you allowing yourself, this is on you. And I love you, but you don't have to jump every time a notification pops up. That's on you, not the technology. You're stressed out because you give in to the distractions. And some of these distractions are these nudges. Some of the distractions are the demands of society. And though I believe that this contributes to stress, I actually believe the distractions contribute a lot less to stress. What the distractions, how distractions contribute to stress is they don't give you the unstructured daydreaming time you need to actually think about your true desires. I think the second thing that is really contributing to your stress is what I call default goals. I'm a big proponent of goal setting. Have you set any goals lately? Set some goals, please. Set big goals, set small goals, but set a challenging goal. Wherever you're at, you do not need to set the Elon Musk dream. You do not need to be a millionaire. Hear me again. You do not need to be a millionaire, not even to retire. You need passive income as if you were a millionaire, but you don't need to be a millionaire. In fact, if you make $104,000 a year, you are in the top 1% of the world. So I am here to tell you, you should want 60 grand a year passively, much more than these big money dreams. Why do we set these default goals? There's so many default goals. Now, some of you might actually want those goals. You might actually want those goals. And I encourage you, if you really do want the wealth building goals, and Marissa and I have some serious wealth building goals, and we recognize it always conflicts with our mental health goals. We recognize it. It's not either or. We're always looking for ways to thread the needle. We want to be better, but we do have financial goals, but they're not default. We conscientiously set them. We vet them. We test them. We just thought we wanted to live in the Dominican Republic. I know Marissa really did want to be a scuba dive instructor until she realized the disenchantment. She doesn't want to be a scuba dive instructor. She wants to scuba dive and she wants to do it a lot. She doesn't like guiding people underwater. There's a lot of stress for her to guide someone in a dangerous situation like being underwater. But she does want to scuba dive every day. She would only have known that if she would have tested her goals. This is that Jim Carrey quote. Test your goals. Go out and pursue big things in order to disprove what it is. And this is science, right? This is the scientific mind. Prove what doesn't work, but go out and prove what doesn't work. Our default goals quite often are goals that we see others have that we think that brings them happiness, the Instagram dream. And we chase that thing. But we don't sit and soul search. Distractions prevent us from soul searching because we fill our life with busyness. And so then default goals set in. And default goals are also goals that you might actually have big goals. I want to travel the world. I want to quit my career for a year. I want to take a sabbatical. I want to write that book. I want to get to a certain fitness level. You might have big goals, but because life is just so resistant to progress, you just default goal to things you know you can achieve. Distractions prevent us from actually dreaming, and then we set default goals, either the ones inherited by those around us or easier goals for us to achieve. But I think at the foundation of both of these is a hidden third problem, and that's dishonest desires. I heard a quote by Tim Ferriss recently. He said, until we want what we have, hear me, until we want what we have, we will never enjoy what we get. Let that sink in. Until we want what we have, we will never enjoy what we get because we will program ourselves to always want something else. So this is partly why when you achieve big goals, you don't enjoy it because you're not programmed to enjoy what you have obtained. You only have programmed yourself to enjoy what you have not yet obtained. I call these dishonest desires. We have not spent time having honest desires. Do you honestly want location freedom? I've lived abroad. I want to travel, but I don't want certain aspects of it. I've traveled the world. The world's lost its mystery. It's gained its enchantment for me. But I've realized that I don't want to sit on a beach in Thailand drinking Mai Tais. I wouldn't mind doing it for 6 weeks. I don't want to do it all the time. A dishonest desire. I think I just want to check out of living. Do we really just want to walk the entire country and hike the entire country? Well, Marissa's proving to herself whether or not that's a real desire of hers. And the only way to test that out is to walk it out, pun intended. I think at the foundation of stress is distractions and default goals. And I think at the foundation of that is just dishonest desires. You haven't actually taken the time to ask yourself what you want. Like Blanco, the Empanada cart guy in the Dominican Republic. He realized that by wanting what he had, I'm on an island, let me look around. I'm in a small town where tourists come through all the time. And locals come through all the time, and these locals have American money and European money. And even though people around me are only making about $4,000 a year, how do I want what I have and grow because of it? This is where true thriving comes. I heard a billionaire Indian who grew up as a poor Indian. He's a billionaire now. And people said, yeah, you were, silver spoon in your mouth. And he's like, no way. I was poor. I was one of the untouchables. He said, I built $1 billion empire in 100 square mile area in India, in backwater India. Now, obviously, his money goes far beyond that now. But what he was getting at is he learned to love what he had so that he could appreciate what he got from there. Blanco, the Empanada cart guy, had this wisdom. Do you have this wisdom to love what you want? And going back to John Maynard Keynes, if you actually got what you want, maybe all you want to do is paint the rest of your days. How much do you actually need to live on to paint the rest of your days? How many distractions and default goals could you cut away if you were honestly only ever wanting to paint? If all you ever wanted to do was write books, how much do you need to get by to actually write books? Or do you want the fame of being a bestseller? Do you want the ego boost of going to all these book signings? Do you have honest desires or ego-driven, dishonest desires? I'm not going to poo-poo it. If you want to be a big-time writer, you should. If you want to publish books around the world, you should. But you should spend time being honest about your goals. So why are we talking about Blanca, the Empanada cart guy, and why are we talking about the Dominican Republic? I want to encourage you today. I want to encourage you to ignite lives of explosive significance. That's my mission. But like my friend Eli, that could be in a one-on-one counseling session sitting across from one another. That doesn't have to be Spark's vision of reaching 1 million people, igniting 1 million people to ignite the world. So we're going to focus on igniting 10,000 people that could reach 100 each. And we want to inspire those people with books and training, tools and training. That's my dream. That's an honest desire. Yes, I still want to travel. Yes, I still want the good life. But the good life's a little different. So I want you to here's your takeaway. This is my final passing thought today. I want you to set goals. I want you to set goals that are big to you. But I want you to set authentic goals. Then, want what you have. Once you've set those big goals, the first next step is let me take a step towards that goal. Let me apply to finish my BA. Did that this weekend. I authentically want this goal. I want to paint. I want to write. I have Spark vision, Spark mission, and I want to travel a little bit. I've got to take these steps, but the first step is wanting what I have. Listen, if you need any support or help at all in any of these things, visit us at stateofthespark.com. If you want to talk about these things, visit us at the Facebook Goals and Gratitude group and let's get the conversation started. But no matter what you do today, remember the mission. Igniting lives of explosive significance, starting with your own. Have a killer day.